Retention marks the point where the old version of you begins to die. The one driven by impulse, distraction, and short bursts of pleasure. That version feeds on chaos and lives without direction. Retention ends that cycle. It forces you to confront the energy you once wasted and teaches you how to use it with purpose. The same force that weakened focus now becomes fuel for transformation. The nervous system steadies, thoughts clear, and discipline replaces craving. Retention activates the higher faculties of self-control, awareness, and vision, qualities the weaker self could never sustain. The death of that old identity is not loss, it's liberation. Every day you hold, a new layer of strength replaces what used to leak away unnoticed. Unbalanced energy always destroys from within. It keeps you restless, unfocused, and enslaved by temporary satisfaction. Retention corrects that imbalance by redirecting energy into higher function. What once moved downward now rises into clarity, confidence, and creativity. The mind stops chasing escape and starts building foundation. This shift feels like war at first because the weaker self resists extinction. But as you stay consistent, that chaos begins to fade. You stop recognizing the old patterns, the old temptations, and the old voice that once dictated your limits. Retention buries that version of you without regret. In its place stands a man who doesn't chase peace. He creates it. The weak self dies the moment the strong one decides to rise. Section 1. Ego dissolution. Retention begins where the ego starts to lose control. The self that once chased attention, pleasure, and approval begins to feel hollow. Those quick fixes that once gave satisfaction stop working. You start noticing how much of your identity was built around wanting. Wanting to be seen, wanting to be liked, wanting to escape silence. Retention exposes that dependency. It cuts off the easy outlets and forces you to meet your real self without filters. The rush fades, but in its place grows awareness. The body may feel restless, the mind may resist, but what's happening beneath that discomfort is purification. The stripping away of false identity. The illusions that once defined you begin to collapse one by one. The thrill of pleasure becomes empty repetition. The need for validation feels childish. The opinions of others lose their weight. Retention reveals how much energy you wasted feeding illusions that never filled you. It teaches through absence. Without the constant chase, the mind begins to quiet, and in that quiet you face yourself without disguise. It's not comfortable, but it's real. Every craving that fades is a layer of the old self peeling away. Retention dismantles the ego not with force, but with truth. The truth that peace never needed permission from others. What dies in this stage is not your body, but the identity that relied on external energy to feel alive. The one that needed noise to feel confident and stimulation to feel whole. Retention takes away the distractions that fed that illusion, leaving you with pure awareness, raw, unfiltered, and powerful. This death feels like loss until you realize what's being buried is weakness. When the false self dissolves, clarity rushes in. You begin to live from internal power instead of external reaction. Retention doesn't just change how you act, it changes who acts within you. The ego fades, and something steadier rises in its place. Section 2. Identity transmutation. As the lower self fades, something entirely different begins to take shape. The noise that once ruled your thoughts starts to dissolve, replaced by a steady awareness that feels unmovable. Retention doesn't give you this presence. It reveals it by clearing away everything that blocked it. Silence begins to feel natural, not forced. Power no longer looks like aggression, it feels like direction. The energy you once gave away freely now circulates through every part of your being, refining your instincts and sharpening your will. This is the moment when transformation stops being a theory and becomes something you can feel in your bones. Retention becomes the crucible where weakness burns and essence condenses. The impulses that once controlled you start losing their influence, like smoke fading into air. Each moment of restraint strengthens a deeper command over your own system. Thought aligns with action, emotion aligns with purpose. and body aligns with mind. You stop trying to become someone better because you finally understand that the strength was already there, waiting beneath the noise. Retention doesn't add power, it distills it. The more you hold, the more focused you become. Your essence begins to feel concentrated, heavier, capable of shaping reality instead of being shaped by it. The man who rises from this process no longer reacts to life, he directs it. His emotions follow his will, not the other way around. His body serves his consciousness instead of enslaving it. Every breath feels intentional, every action carries presence. Retention flips the hierarchy of control, mind above impulse, purpose above desire. You begin to notice how little outside validation matters when your internal world runs in order. That's when growth stops being visible and starts becoming inevitable. The lower self that once scattered your energy becomes fuel for the higher one that now commands it. Section 3, Spirit Ascension. When the lower self finally dies, what rises from it is alignment. The same energy that once drowned in lust and distraction begins to move upward, seeking purpose instead of pleasure. It refines itself into awareness, into intuition that cuts through illusion. The body no longer vibrates with restlessness, it hums with quiet certainty. Retention turns raw impulse into a refined current that feeds insight rather than emptiness. This is the stage where thoughts start to align with truth without effort. You act less from desire and more from clarity. Energy once wasted in chase now serves creation. That shift marks the beginning of spiritual ascent. The man who lives in this state operates on a higher frequency. Chaos no longer pulls him because his energy no longer matches it. Retention gives him a kind of detachment that feels clean, not cold. He speaks less, but his words land heavier. His presence no longer demands attention. It commands it through quiet authority. This balance between focus and surrender draws purpose toward him, as if life itself recognizes his rhythm. He becomes a mirror for higher order, someone who no longer reacts to noise because he vibrates beyond its reach. His peace becomes power, and his control becomes presence. What once felt like sacrifice now feels like resurrection. Every denied impulse, every silent battle, every moment of restraint becomes proof that the divine masculine has awakened, not through accumulation of new traits, but through the release of everything that diluted him. Retention teaches that strength isn't gained through force, but through surrender. Surrender of chaos, craving, and the weaker identity that once chased validation. From that surrender rises authority. The new self doesn't seek light, it becomes it. Retention doesn't just rebuild a man. It reclaims the part of him that was never truly lost, only buried under noise.